Okay, here we go. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to continue on. I guess my glasses aren't here. Are they on the table? I thought I left them here last night, but...
Father, I don't think I got the notes.
Oh, yes, Severian, you are right. You are right. I did not get you on the text or the email, but I did send them out, but it's nothing personal.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for clarifying.
C. Connor. What's your email again, Connor?
Childress, Connor.
Childress.
99.
There it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
She knows. She's been here for 3. Mom. Oh, the bathroom. Yeah, but you've used. She's been here.
I didn't know there were 2 bathrooms.
No, there's a second one. I just forgot it works. I don't know one. So, there's toilet paper.
Oh, maybe I used the one that didn't work.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, it should be there any second.
I got him.
Got
Thank
him.
you.
Gotcha. Okay, here we go. So tonight we're going to continue on with book number 2, and it's the first 2 sections are talking about disputes and how they're supposed to be dealt with within the church. And this is kind of going on from the last class. We talked about this a bit, but here we go. Do thou therefore, O bishop, together with thy subordinate clergy, endeavor rightly to divide the word of truth. For the Lord says, if you walk cross-grain to me, I will walk cross-grain to you. And elsewhere, with the holy thou wilt be holy, and with the perfect man thou wilt be perfect, and with the froward thou wilt be froward. Walk therefore holily, that you may rather appear worthy of praise from the Lord than of complaint from the adversary. That's pretty self-explanatory. Next one, he says, it is therefore a noble encomium for a Christian. Did I pronounce that right? Yeah, I think so. It's like an action. This is a process for a Christian to have no contest with anyone. Contest or an argument or, like a challenge. But if by any management or temptation a contest arise with anyone, let him endeavor that it may be composed, though thereby he be obligated to lose somewhat. Let it not come before an heathen trial. Nay, indeed, you are not to permit that the rulers of this world should pass sentence against your people. For by them the devil contrives mischief to the servants of God, and occasions of reproach to be cast upon us, as though we had not, quote, one wise man that is able to judge between the brethren, or to decide their controversies. Okay, so this is talking about the reality that there is not supposed to be any sort of, we should strive in the church to be at peace with everybody, and we should, take the lower road. We should take the humble road. We should rather be wronged. Even if somebody's doing us wrong, we should just bear it and forgive it. But if some sort of a challenge arises or a contest arises, then this is the purpose of this teaching. And so number 1, Christians should not have arguments with their brothers and sisters in the Lord. It should just, this is something that should not characterize us, arguments, but rather peace should be what is a characteristic of our lives. Number 2, if someone But if sometime it happens, let it be composed. So if something arises between a brother and a brother, or a sister and a sister, or a Christian family and another Christian family, it should be done in a calm, controlled way that is not out of control. Like, by the time you get to the point where you're going to be raising issue about something, the goal would be that nothing like this would ever happen. But we live in an imperfect world, and sometimes these things happen. If they are to take place, then it should take place with such care and concern that when things are approaching, the contest, or there's a case made, you have to argue for your side, and somebody's going to argue against their side. It should have been done with such care and control that if it really is just petty, you're going to have carefully examine that, because it's going to be a very embarrassing thing if you just are some emotional person who gets all worked up about nothing, and then you have to go before somebody and you're found out to be a troublemaker or a busybody or somebody like this. Does that make sense? So it's, I forgot to send this also to Reese. Reese likes to come here. Sorry, Reese. Copy. Reese Jones. So you have this expectation that if you're going to have an issue with a brother or sister, that it's done in a composed way, done with control. But if they do arise, never, 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 never do you go to the civil authorities. Never. Okay? You are not to permit that the rulers of this world should pass sentence against you. This is just simply something that must not happen. You who are baptized are Orthodox Christians. You are literally citizens of a whole nother kingdom. And if you don't know that or think of it that way, you do not comprehend the faith. Okay, so we need to talk privately if you don't understand this, but you really are in a nation that is outside of the civil world. And so if you have an issue between somebody, then you should come, and we'll talk about how that goes coming up. It's under here, but you never go against somebody to the civil authorities of the world. Yes, Paula?
I just have a question about, like, say, anybody, even if it's somebody from the world, anybody goes to sue you or whatever, and then the court gives you one of those, papers or something that you're supposed to be seen in court, like, what are those, I forget what they're called. But,
A subpoena.
yeah, a subpoena. Or, do we go so we get in trouble?
Well, no. These are different, two different topics. So you have this is a command for Christians who would have an issue with their Christian brother and sister.
I understand that.
If you have a neighbor who is not a Christian, and they are bothered with you, hopefully you would just do what Christ says, which is turn the other cheek, give to them what they're asking. If it's unreasonable and they're like so angry that they want a civil case and throw you in jail, I mean, you're going to have to go.
So you do, like, so.
But it would be best, it's best. You just have to tell your attorney that you're a Christian and you don't swear.
Right,
you're not going to swear on the Bible. When we adopted our children, we went to the judge and said, look, we're Christians. Jesus says don't swear. So we're not going to swear. We can tell you we affirm we're going to tell you the truth, but we are not going to swear. And they were like, whatever. They really don't care. It's just a formality for them. But amongst Christians, this should not happen. And this is a sad thing, because this is not actually in the world today, I think, because for a lot of reasons, but this happens. Like people who we would love and value very much, like Father Josiah, he gets sued all the time. but because he's a big target. You know, he's a big target, and they think that his parish has a lot of money, and he says stuff, and so people will just go and open up and sue him. You know, like Philorette just told me this case, and somebody's attacking him. Somebody who's supposed to be Christian is attacking him online, both on Facebook and on YouTube. And this other person is supposed to be an Orthodox Christian priest. And it's just, you know, it's just ridiculous. And it's because the evil one has gotten in the mind of somebody and wants to bring slanderous accusations against the holy ones who are trying to lead people in the way of truth and the real faith that was handed down to the saints. So you have to, at the beginning of your life, of course, as those of you who are listening who are catechumens, but definitely those of you who are already baptized in the church, you have to resolve that we never bring suits against somebody. Never, ever bring suits against somebody. It's just not the way we do it. We are called to be slaves, and what a disappointment it must be to God Almighty, our perfect and holy King, to see his people, his slaves, abusing and hating and not forgiving. I mean, just what a disappointment that's got to be, you know, for God. Like, we're supposed to be the examples to the world of love and peace. So the way to do it is turn the other cheek. And this is also very important because you are human and you have emotions and you have feelings. And there's no doubt that at least one time in your life, if not hundreds or thousands, you're going to feel slighted or offended by a brother or a sister in the parish, maybe even the priest, or you're going to think this person did this wrong, or that person did this wrong, or they didn't understand me, or they don't like me, or any of this stuff. And I'm just here to tell you that you're going to feel that way, and get over it. Like, it's time to grow up. You're an Orthodox Christian, and if you were doing what was right, when somebody treats you wrong, first thing you're going to think is, I probably did something wrong and I offended them. If I didn't, I'm going to tell them I'm sorry, and I'm going to take the low path, and I'm going to forgive them. If you feel like something's going wrong, you just simply go to that person in love and say, hey, I feel like you did this to me and it really hurt my feelings. And then, if you can't get it worked out in a peaceful way, then you just say, well, we'll just go talk to the priest or the bishop about this, and he'll help us walk through this. That's what our jobs are. Like he says, it says, are there not godly ones among us to judge? That's what Paul says in Corinthians. So, anyways, that's that lesson. The next paragraph starts out in the heading here that we have from the translators are that believers ought not to go to law before unbelievers, which is just continuing the point. Nor ought any unbeliever to be called as witnesses against believers. And the text goes on to say this: let none of the heathen therefore know of your differences among one another. Okay, this is really important. So this brings back to a lot of issues. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, really, you should not be talking about the offenses that you have by anybody else in the parish. So let's say that it's you, Anthony is walking in the church and somebody does something and he's really offended by something. He feels like somebody treated him very badly or he did something wrong. Anthony should not talk about that at all to anybody except for the person who he feels offended him or the priest. Okay? Because it only causes problems in the people's ears who hear the complaint. Okay? So what if Anthony is having a bad day and this happens and he just totally misreads somebody? Or something like this. You with me? Like, this happens to us all the time. Just get married. I mean, Once you get married, you'll know what I'm talking about. You know, like you misread people, you assume something that was not true, you get offended, you stew on it for 2 or 3 days, it just gets worse and worse and worse instead of talking about it. Then it finally blows up. Well, this happens obviously with interrelationships amongst brothers and sisters and people in communities and nations. And if you, in a state of confusion or mishap, or let's say somebody is in a gross sins, and then they're not even going to be able to perceive anything anyway properly. Somebody's in a mortal sin, and then they see something, do something, their mind is like they're dead. Do you understand this? You do a mortal sin, and you die because you're not walking with God. Your mind is messed up. So messed up that if you die, you go to hell. So how can somebody with a mortal sin comprehend anything properly that somebody's communicating with them? And I'm not saying that they might not, that they are able to recognize things that are true, but I am saying that very obviously one should presume, probably if I'm in a mortal sin, and I get offended by something, I'm going to hopefully know. Chances are that I'm not perceiving things properly because I'm already in this sin. So if I get offended, then I just blow it off. Like I'm the problem. Then I go, I'm the problem. This is like, oh, that guy did this. It makes me really bad. No, I'm involved in the sin. Of course, probably I'm not seeing things correctly. You know, this doesn't mean that when you're at work and the boss is like, hey, could you pick up dumpster number 5 and throw it into the dumpster? You're going to have no ability to comprehend to pick up dumpster 5. I mean, you're obviously going to be able to do that. But communication from one human being to another, there is a part of that is on a metaphysical level. I mean, it just is. We have two souls communing with each other, so forth. So anyway, you should not be communing these problems and concerns that you have with other people to anybody, because every word that we say is going to, well, I mean, I'm saying this like in a very broad and general way. Let's say you are considering dating a girl, and you have this bosom Christian brother, and you're like, I don't know if I should pursue this or not. I heard that, she was calling her ex-boyfriend because they're really friends. Should I bring this up or not? I mean, this is what friends do. You understand the difference between somebody's being offended and this person offended me, he did this, and then you go and tell this other buddy, oh, he did this to me. That's what you're not supposed to do. Then you have the other situation where it's like, I'm really interested in this girl, but do you think it's weird that she's talking to her ex-boyfriend, 3 times a week, and they're just friends? Well, of course, you're going to be talking to your friends about these things. I'm not saying that is off limits, but anyway, okay, so we go back to the text here. So let not the heathen. So with that, okay, here's why I went and reiterated all of this stuff. He says, because if what I said is true about how we're supposed to act amongst ourselves as Christians when we have issues with each other, what in the world could compel somebody to go tell a non-believer that you have issues with your Christian brother or sister? Like, do you want the name of Christ to be smeared? Like, you're giving the dirty laundry to somebody who's not even believing in the faith? It's like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be trashing your brother to somebody who's already against the faith, or maybe just neutral. But if you give them these bad things, they're not going to be able to discern correctly, but they're also probably going to be turned away. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, what would cause that? I think to myself would be like, say if I'm offended and I go to my Aunt Susie, I don't have an Aunt Susie, but I'm just saying, go to my Aunt Susie and tell her about what she did, is because there's sin within me. Mm-hmm. And I want to at least feel a little vindicated.
Absolutely.
And so I want to tell her so that she can join me with at least some anger toward her.
Yeah, Paula, you're right. That person did you wrong.
So that shows sin in me for wanting to go out there. That's what I was thinking when you said that.
So anyways, the apostles say, Let not the heathen therefore know, they should not know of your differences amongst one another, nor do you receive unbelievers as witnesses against yourself. So you shouldn't say, like, this, it comes up to a meeting where you have to have a judge, and then you go and draw this unbeliever as a witness against your Christian brother. This is not allowed. It's still not allowed today, to this day. I mean, like, people don't come into the spiritual courts with non-believers as witnesses. Nor be judged by them, so don't go in front of them, nor owe them anything on account of tribute or fear, but render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and God the things that are God's. Which, it's God's place to judge God's people. It's not Caesar's place. Do you get it? Give the money that has Caesar's picture on it, give it to him, but do not give the people who are imprinted with Christ to Caesar. Those people stand before God's people. Choose therefore, after the number 71, choose therefore rather to suffer harm, to endure after those things that make for peace. There you have it. We should rather suffer harm from our brothers and sisters and do those things that make for peace, not only among the brethren, but also amongst unbelievers. So the way of life that we should have is always striving to be humble and make peace with others. We are peacemakers. This is why we say over and over and over, peace be unto you, peace be unto you, peace be unto you, because that's what we want, there to be peace, and even amongst the unbelievers. For by suffering loss in the affairs of this life, us as Christians, suffering loss, you will be sure not to suffer in the concerns of piety, and you will live religiously and according to the command of Christ. When you want yourself vindicated, you oftentimes are blinded to the teachings of Christ. Speak evil of no man, for instance. Right? Did you know that Jesus says, speak evil of no man? Be careful. Let no idle word proceed from your mouth, because they will all be judged. Be angry and not sin. If you're angry in an unrighteous way, you'll be in danger of Gehenna. I mean, there's just on and on and on, only about this. We're not talking about sensual thoughts. We're not talking about lust or pornography. We're talking about our emotions towards people and how we're doing, and then if we're just not letting it out. But if we take the loss, like our starting places, like I was talking with somebody today, and they're kind of having like some controversy with nature. They were just like a guy who's working out and he's getting really annoyed and frustrated, and he was just like, getting angry. How do I get over that? Well, just tell yourself you need this. You need this. This is exactly what this is saying. Suffer loss in the affairs of this life. And if you have that as an expectation, people are going to do me wrong. I'm going to lose some money from now and from then. People are going to gossip about me. People are going to do me dirty. I'm going to expect this. Then I'm going to forgive them. And I'm going to take the high road, which is the path of humility. And then you will find that your soul will be at peace. It will be at peace. And you will be living according to the commands of God. And when you stand before God, you will not suffer loss as far as living a life that's pious. But if brethren have lawsuits one with another, which God forbid, he says, you who are the rulers ought thence to learn that such as do not do the work of the brethren and the Lord, but rather are public enemies. So this is talking to the bishops, the priests, and the deacons, who are the rulers, understanding, like, I'm supposed to understand that when people bring lawsuits against their brother and sisters, whoever's the person bringing the lawsuit is not doing the work of God, but rather they are the public enemy. Who is the public we're talking about? Those who are in the kingdom of God. That's the public. And one of the parties will be found to be mild, gentle, and the child of light, but the other unmerciful, insolent, and covetous. Let him therefore who is condemned be rebuked. Let him be separated. Let him undergo the punishment of his hatred to his brothers. That's how he's supposed to be dealt with. And this is why it's so incumbent upon you that if you hear people complaining to you about other people in the parish, or you go to another parish and they're like, oh yeah, I was, so and so did me dirty, or this bishop did me dirty, and you just be like, oh, it just stop them and say, oh, have you talked with them? You should talk with them. And you don't be the ear. Just shut it down. Just shut it down. And if you have concerns and you're hearing somebody say stuff like this, and then you begin to have concerns, you should not say, yeah, I'm worried about this. Go, just stop your mouth, go to your journal, go to a notebook, log the concerns that you have, who you have them with, and then go and talk to the spiritual leader or your confessor or the bishop about these things. Because you don't want this to happen, what he just said, which is this. Separate the person who does this, what the stuff that I'm saying, or is bringing a suit against somebody, let him be separated, let him undergo punishment for his hatred of his brothers. Because a lot of times there is this hatred that is this brewing and that's causing this stuff. The text goes on, afterwards, when he repents, let him be received. And so when they have learned prudence, when the person has learned prudence, they will ease your judicators. It is also, can you make me some tea, honey? It is also a duty to forgive each other's trespasses, not the duty of those that judge. The judge is not going, like the bishop or the priest is not going to be the one who gives forgiveness. It's going to be you. It's going to be the one who has the issue with somebody.
Father, would this also apply with a spouse? I mean, all of this is, we shouldn't be talking about like this anyway. So I'm assuming it
oh, you mean like you like
complaining or
you should
technically.
You should not complain to anybody about your spouse except the priest.
No. Like, let's say John Evan makes me so mad, and I gossip about it or whatever to my wife.
Right.
In concern though.
There is some nuance in this, but in general, I think because we're speaking on just basic general levels, I think every single Christian should do their best to not talk evil of any person ever.
Right.
And I think that this is something that is like so foreign to us as a culture, because our whole culture was not about this until social media came out. And then social media came out and it basically, what's that?
Camera screen is dim.
Oh no, it's not. It's just because this.
Yeah. Once we got to the 2000s, basically everybody just was, we all naturally judge anyways, but it just like exploded. And so everybody's like literally trained and conditioned to just talk about everybody else. So when you get married, it's very hard not to talk about other people. And are there times where you have to? I suppose yes, but you need to be really careful to not say like, you need not to dialogue about your emotions. Like, this makes me so angry, this guy is blah, blah, blah. I'm saying that in the very few occasions when you decide that you're going to gamble with your soul to talk about this kind of stuff, you're going to get married, you're going to have children, and you're going to have to talk about the negative things that children do. But but here's what happens. This is kind of like the evolution of being a parent. When you're a parent and the children are little, they're in their young age, then they go to middle age, and then they go to teenagers. You feel like when they are disobeying you that they're attacking you. Mostly they're just living according to their flesh and they're not really attacking you. Well, when you're a younger parent, you feel offended because you feel like they're just attacking you. And then that makes you angry and you want to, did you put sugar in there? You are wanting to, that heated up very fast. This is not heated up very hot. You gotta wait till the thing stops making noise. It goes, you can give that to somebody else who doesn't like scolding hot. Anybody want some tea that's pretty warm but not super hot? Okay. So anyways, I just think as far as husband and wives, if you want to become a saint, learn to not do that. I'm not a saint. Sometimes I mean, like, I've spent my whole life doing exactly what I'm telling you shouldn't do. But over the last 5 years, I've really been trying to not do those things. And it's just like, when you have hard times, there's a difference between saying there is a situation and this, you're reporting on the instance. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Now I don't know what I should do. That you have to do. I mean, like that, you can't not function as a husband and wife without having these kind of communication. I mean, suppose you could. I mean, like if you have a coworker who's a brother in the church and he was really just cantankerous, like you just have to use wisdom. I mean, there's a lot of those situations. It's just like the day's done, you got to let him go. It's not going to help you spiritually just to even enumerate the bad things that happened. But if it's important that you enumerate them, then don't talk about how bad that person is or how much in sin they are or whatever. Just don't talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know if it makes sense. Does that make sense, Dionysius?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Is that? Would you think I need to?
I mean, like, as a husband, you have to protect her. So you might say to her, like, I really, you don't have to give her all the details, but like you're saying, like there's people I don't really want you to spend a lot of time visiting with. You don't have to tell.
Yes,
them
this is very important. Yeah.
And you're guiding your wife in how to train the children. You're not like complaining about them, but you're like, this child has this issue.
Yeah,
so,
very
you know,
good,
like
very
that kind
good.
of stuff, but
Good piece of wisdom. So Matushka, I was just asking her because she's the better half and she has better insights sometimes, and this is something that I would have wanted to say anyway. But she said, as a husband, you do need to be able to indicate to your wife, like, I don't really want you spending a lot of time talking to that person. I just don't think it's safe. That's the role of a husband. That's the role of a parent. And you don't really need to go into all of what's wrong. The wife should be like, oh, my husband's trying to protect me. So wives, if your husband's like, I really don't want you to be going on girls' nights, especially with those girls, because I just don't think it's safe. Then the wife should say, okay, I'm going to respect your leadership and authority, and I'm going to do this. And same thing with the children. I don't really feel comfortable with the children going over to those people's houses. You don't have to say like, oh, this is all their dirty laundry. They do this and they do this. And I once heard them say this. It can just be as simple as like, I'm just not really comfortable with this. Honey, I don't want the children to go. The children don't need to know dirty laundry. And that's a little tougher because sometimes they just demand an explanation. And hopefully if you can, as when they're little, just teach them, train them that there are a lot of times where you don't need an explanation and we're not going to give it because we don't want to say anything badly about anybody. But we don't feel like this is safe and you need to honor that. We're your parents. That's what parents do. That's why God gave parents to people. So.
And also on the other end though, so children need to complain to their parents, not complain to their parents, but be like, I saw this and I don't know what to do about it. That's a different thing. But we're not talking about and wives to their husbands like, hey, this person said this to me and I don't, you know, like, what do I do with
Yeah,
it?
there is
That's a
there.
different-
This is a kind of a different theme, but it is they're related to each other. So just so there's no confusion, we'll just address this. It is also important for children to be taught that they need to be able to report stuff to you as parents that seem a little fishy, that seem a little strange, that seem like so and so is touching so and so. Is that okay? That children must report these things. Wives must come up like, hey, so and so came up and was like, like leaned their, this man came and like put his arm around me and on my shoulder and be like, hey, sister, how you doing? Like, do you think you could address that? Like that has never happened in our parish, but listen, these things happen, like especially when you get to like 1,000 people in a parish. I mean, this stuff kind of happens, bad stuff can happen. So we're not talking about these things. We're talking about slanderous things that are bothering you because you can have an issue with somebody who you think was a jerk to you. But if you go tell your friend, so-and-so was a jerk to me. He's a jerk because of this and this and this. And you're just bringing his name down in the mud. Okay, I don't want to belittle it anymore. But that's the lesson here.
Father, I have a question.
Go for it.
A clarification on something you said earlier to make sure I'm understanding you right. So, one thing you mentioned was it was the husband's job. Maybe we see a busybody in the church, and I tell my wife, "Hey, I don't want you to speak with this person." The perception, I'll kind of say what you said a little bit, paraphrase, was like, "Oh, well, like the wife should just understand the husband's protecting," and almost it kind of seems like you're like, "Well, she just shouldn't say anything about it," versus like, would it not be wrong for her to ask the husband, well, hey, can we talk about this?
Well, I think it's okay. What I was trying to emphasize is that you need to be able to just, like, what I'm trying to emphasize when I said that was that you should hopefully have a culture in your marriage that the wife can just trust that your insights are wise. And if she wants an explanation, then you can give it. But I'm just saying, like, try not to miss the point here. What we're trying to identify is our not gossiping or tearing down somebody else.
I just want to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding you and thinking like that you were trying to say that she shouldn't even have that privilege.
Of course she has that privilege. Of course she has that privilege. You as a couple need to strive to be walking in the commands of Christ, and to do that you are not going to be spending much time talking about other people. And so there's not a law, there's not a policeman who's going to go around and tell you can and can't talk about these things. You just have to know that God is watching everything you do. Like the reason we're talking about this is because it's just taught right here. And that you need to understand that there are consequences for everything that we do. We can justify all sorts of things to ourselves, but at the end of the day, you're going to stand before God. I mean, it's unavoidable. And my job as a pastor and a teacher is to like put this stuff out for you just so that you're aware, and then you need to self-police yourself, self-medicate, ask God, give me wisdom to answer this. Should I talk about this? Should I not talk about this? And you're going to have to just make those decisions on your own. So it's like I'm throwing this out there for you to just be aware. Talking is very dangerous, and I need to be really careful on what we say and how we do it. And I think obviously if you're like, I'm a little concerned about you hanging out with that person, I'd like you not to talk to them really about deep things. You say, oh, okay. But if she's like, is there a reason why? Well, there's been some issues with this person talking to people and then letting out all sorts of secret information, or then telling people things to other people that aren't true. So like, I'm concerned maybe that she'll hear you talk with her, then she'll take that, twist it, and then go give it to somebody else in an unrighteous way, or something to this effect. And then that explanation should be good enough. At the point where the wife is like, I knew it. I've heard, that's what I'm trying to talk about. Does that make sense? Like, you don't want it to get into a gossip fest, or where you're tearing people down amongst yourself. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. So you just have to use reason and just use wisdom, but don't let it get beyond that point. Okay. Here we go. Afterwards, when he repents, let him be received. And so it is also a duty to forgive each other's trespasses, not that of the judge, but of those who have the quarrels. As the Lord determined when Peter asked him, how often must my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7? And he replied, I say to thee, not 7 times, but until 70 times 7. For so would our Lord have us to be truly his disciples, and never to have anything against anybody. As for instance, anger without measure, passion without mercy, covetousness without justice, hatred without reconciliation. Draw by your instruction those who are angry to friendship. That's a good line. Draw by your instruction those who are angry to friendship, and those that are at variance to agreement. Excuse me. Father, didn't you just teach the exact opposite this whole time? Yeah, sorry, misread. And those who are at variance to agreement. For the Lord said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Okay. Number 1. Do not let the unbelievers know the differences in you. We already talked about all this, so I'm just going to go through these notes very quickly. If you have a question, stop me. We do not receive unbelievers as witnesses against Christians. Nor should we be judged by unbelievers, but do give taxes to those. Number 2, the Christian is better off suffering than to take offense. Number 1, choose therefore rather to suffer harm, they say. Number 2, endeavor after those things that make for peace, not only among the brothers, but also with unbelievers. So if your unbelieving neighbor is upset with you because they think that you put your fence a foot on their property line, then just tell them you're sorry and move your fence. What's a foot and a half? I mean, just suffer wrong. It just doesn't matter. I know this. I experience this myself. I put the fence up at our house because our deed says that we own from our land to our neighbors. But then my neighbor, who's a great neighbor, he came and said, sorry, Steve, to have to tell you this. There's an easement here to my 30 acres that is landlocked back there. And I'm like, and he said, I can show you the papers. And I was like, but he's like, you can use this, but I just want you to put your fence property right here. If you want to have fruit trees or whatever, you can even put a temporary thing up. And I'm like, okay. But at first, I was offended. This is right when we moved to our land 14 years ago.
Get a surveyor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could survey it, but it's just not that big of a deal. I could survey it and I could be right. Or I could survey it and he could be right. Then I would look like, So it's just better. It's 30 feet and we get to use it anyway. He's very, very gracious. I think he's probably right now, but I'm just saying, in the moment, I was like, this is my land. As if man can own land anyway. It's God's. So go ahead.
We had the same thing happen after we put up our fence. My neighbor came up and he's like, if you look down the line from here to that pole, you're on my land for at least 4 or 5 feet. And it was like, no, it's a straight line. Like you could see the line. And he was like, no, you're on my line and you need to remove it. We had to actually dig up the whole fence and move it in like 4 feet or 5 feet.
Yeah. Yep, that's what happens sometimes, and you just have to do that. There will be times where things seem so unreasonable, and in order to seek peace, we bend to these things. Number 3, for by suffering loss in the affairs of life, thou wilt be sure not to suffer in concerns of piety, and wilt live religiously according to the commandments of Christ. Okay, number 3, if there is a conflict or a lawsuit with those in the household of God, these brothers who bring lawsuits against their brothers are not doing the work of God, but rather they become a public enemy. Number 2, in these situations, the situation when one brother brings a suit against another, there is usually one who is mild, gentle, and the child of light, and the other is unmerciful, insolent, covetous, and usually a lot of other things. The condemned one must be separated from the brothers and undergo the punishment of earthly law. And it's just a really bad, horrible thing if we have to even have a suit like this. The church has what's called the spiritual court, so we'll get into that here because we really are in a kingdom. It's no joke. It's not like we think we just found something. There is mechanisms. If there's really an issue between brothers and brothers, there's a way to deal with it. But this is what should happen before we have to do that. Okay, so the person who did wrong and was, abusing the person needs to be separated. But if he repents, receive him back and forgive him, like Peter said. 5, a true disciple, number 1, is never to have anything against anyone. Okay? A true disciple of Christ never has anything against anyone. We always forgive. If we don't forgive, our Heavenly Father will not forgive us. For instance, all these things, anger without mercy, we shouldn't have passion without anger, without measure, passions without mercy, covetousness without justice, hatred without reconciliation. Draw by your instruction those who are angry to friendship, and those who are at variance to agreement. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. And we want to be children of God when we stand before Him. Okay, so last section. That the judicatures of Christians ought to be held on the second day of the week. That this is like the hearings. That's what that word means, the hearings. Let your judicatures be held on the second day, which is Monday of the week. That if any controversy arise about your sentence, having an interval till the Sabbath, you may be able to set the controversy aright, and to reduce those to peace who have the contest one with another against the Lord's day. Let also the deacons and presbyters be present at your judicatures to judge without acceptance of persons, as men of God with righteousness. When therefore both the parties are come, according to the law, as the law says, those who have the controversy shall stand severally in the middle of the court, and when you have heard them, give your votes wholly, endeavoring to make them both friends, that's important, before the sentence of the bishop, that the judgment against the offender may not go abroad into the world, knowing that he has the court in the court the Christ of God, as conscious of and confirming his judgment. But if any persons are accursed by one another, accused of by one another, and their fame suffers, like this is specifically talking about they're slandered, somebody lies about them, and he's not talking about somebody who's famous, but he's just like his good reputation is damaged. As if they did not walk uprightly in Lord. In like manner, you shall hear both parties, the accuser and the accused, but not with prejudice, nor with hearkening to one party only, but with righteousness, as passing a sentence concerning eternal life or death. For says God, he shall prosecute that which is right justly. For he that is justly punished and separated by you is rejected from eternal life and glory. Whew. He becomes dishonorable among holy men and one condemned of God. So this is these are pretty serious. So number one, there are spiritual courts, and according to this teaching of the apostles, they're supposed